My name is Zeev Likwornik. I'm the head of Amdocs Cloud Center of Excellence. All the ones here that speaks from right to left surely knows Amdocs, but for the sakes of the guys that do not speak from right to left, I would just mention that Amdocs is the biggest high-tech company headquartered in Israel, 25,000 employees worldwide. Yeah, part of the startup community here. And what I would like to discuss with you today is the telecom sector and OpenStack Cloud in the telecom sector. We have some time, so you could ask questions in the end, preferably, either way. And I would start with a quick question following the last sessions here. Anyone here is planning to soon buy a billing system or CRM or something? No, okay. So I'm not going to sell you anything, okay? Which is quite refreshing comparing to the previous great speakers here, which we use, by the way. They are great and we use most of them and so on and so forth. But I'm not without any interest here, and it is not going to be hidden interest. It's going to be very obvious very soon, okay? So I think that at least in my part of the presentation, hint, hint, I'm going to be followed up by my colleague, friend, and teacher, Tal Berenbaum here, who is going to speak to you a lot about technology stuff. I know to do technology, but I'm going to speak to you about what keeps telcos executives awake at night, okay? So if you are going to deal with telcos, and Chris here before me mentioned some small ones such as AT&T and Comcast, which of course Amdocs is there as well. I think it's very important for you to understand what keeps them at night, okay? So lucky you that you are here. You're obviously, somewhat at least, cloud savvy, some more, some less. And number one thing that keeps them awake at night is skill scarcity, okay? Meaning you're in the right place. I spoke 2 weeks ago with Johan, the group CTO of Vodafone, and his number one challenge, skills, okay? You are here part of the solution, okay? Then there is organizational challenges, okay? Including changes, challenges, and all of that. Many of you work in small organizations, such as IDF and so, but within big ones, such as Amdocs, AT&T, Vodafone, and the like, going to cloud usually requires some organizational changes, and it is difficult. Just imagine, think about that. Roadmap one, you heard here several different stacks from Red Hat, from Ubuntu, and others. Very difficult for telcos to select the right stack. And there's lots of complexity of ecosystem when you're going to open source. I don't know if you read one of the last interesting articles running there from about 2 weeks ago. Open source, S-O-R-E-S. Look at that, it's interesting. Because open source is great, but introduce lots of challenges. There is also re-architecting applications, so on, and lots of operability things that were mentioned here before. Ubuntu and else, I don't want to repeat it. Why CSPs, communication service provider, also known as telcos, going to the cloud, okay? When people intuitively think about the cloud, talk to your neighbor, to your grandma, ask them, why cloud? Just going to you as well, so you see. Why cloud? You'll get mainly the answer, the first intuitive answer is cost, reducing TCO, which is a good answer. Cloud is introducing the economy of scale, is very important mostly to the ones that lacks it at most, hence why Amazon and the like are full with SMBs. Telcos usually tends to be big ones. There are smaller ones such as MVNOs, but you can imagine that when you speak to John Donovan, CSO, Chief Strategy Officer of AT&T, who visited us in Amdocs in January, and I spoke to him, He doesn't understand why AT&T needs to go to public cloud. Because he says, I have enough economy of scale, I'm East Coast, West Coast, I have geo-redundancy, I don't need it. But he does go to private, and we'll discuss about it in a minute. So they're not going mainly or primarily for TCO reduction, they're going for agility. And the ones here that better understand cloud native, microservices, etc., that's actually agility on steroids. So it's reducing time to market, time to revenue, and it fosters innovation. Now, if you are here like a startup that has developing gaming, etc., you were born to cloud from day one, you know it, you don't need me to explain that to you. But for telcos, I'll give you an example. A big USA telco thought to provide a package to his consumers. He thought, I don't know if you know, in the USA, most of the packages, you pay for the data, okay? And he thought to exempt the data that you play Pokemon with. So it was a Pokemon package, okay? Eat as much as you can Pokemon data. Great idea. By the time he spoke to the vendor, start to change it, etc., he woke up like 6-9 months after with a solution, no Pokemon anymore, okay? So great solution for the problem of yesterday. If you do it the cloud right, cloud native, microservices and so on, innovation, fail fast, fail cheap, you can do it the right way. CSP cloud agility is driven mostly from DevOps. Now, since I have another 5 minutes or so, you're not going for me to be DevOps experts, but best to explore it. Within DevOps, the main challenges are not, I repeat, not technical. What happens to big enterprises, such as Amdocs and others, is that DevOps sounds like a very techy word, okay? Imale, translated, okay? DevOps. So it usually goes with someone top heard about DevOps, goes to his CIO, etc. I heard DevOps solve it. Big mistake. See here, and you can see it from many others. This is a Gartner for about a year ago, but it's repeatable in all the researches. Technology issue in DevOps is 8%. So whether you choose that tool or doing it that way or that way in terms of tooling or technology, you are solving the smallest part of the problem. The biggest part, people issues, including skill scarcity, remember that from earlier? Organization, processes, okay? If you're familiar with the 2-pizza box concept, came from Jeff Bezos' Amazon, go read it. Understand it's very different from water flow and so on and so forth. So first you need to fix that, and then also do the technology issues. And if you started to solve the DevOps problem with the techie folks, you're in the wrong place. The Telecom cloud maturity model. What are we talking about here? Amdocs is very intimate with many leading telcos worldwide. When I'm saying intimate, it means that with AT&T, I have a weekly call on cloud for the past 3.5 years, where face-to-face, etc., including with many others. I'll give you some examples. So we, over time, developed this maturity model that helps the discussion. In RFPs, until 2 years ago, I could see a big RFP, 1,000 questions about how do you do that in the CRM and how do you do that in the billing, etc. And then one question, do you support cloud? What should I answer, yes or no? Maybe, I don't know. So there are 50 shades of gray also in cloud, actually more than 50, and you need to discuss the language, okay? So it took us some time when we created that, and now when telcos ask us, do you support cloud? We ask him, what exactly do you mean when you say cloud, okay? So telcos starting their roadmap to the cloud with the infrastructure evolution. So they're starting with bare metal, that's the days before OCP and so on, putting virtual machines on top. Remember, this is a telco discussion here, so I'm going to be very telco specific. Most of the workloads in telcos worldwide today, this is an OpenStack summit, correct? Running on VMware here, okay? Till today. There are still many telcos migrating from bare metal, all kind of plugins to the Dells, HPs, IBMs, etc., Linux there, into VMware, okay? And we were the first, etc., but I'm not going to sell you BSS OSS billing here. Then they are climbing one step above. It says here private and public. It's actually more private or public. They are deciding. Most of them, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, they have the intrinsic economy of scale, are going to private. Now what's interesting in this room is that at current time, in the telco industry, there is no question anymore what is the tool that is running the private cloud in the telcos. It is OpenStack, okay? So telcos, when looking on private cloud, they're looking OpenStack, underneath many KVMs, sometimes they used to have ESXi VMware and others, but it's OpenStack. Then going to public cloud, and public cloud, actually they don't have any question there as well. The closest that I succeeded to find a Bible is NIST, National Institute of Standards of Technology. If you Google NIST-cloud, you find the 5 pages gross. It's 2 pages net, so it does not hurt to read. This is a paper from 2012. 95% is still correct. So it helps you to discuss. It is not an intro to cloud, so I haven't brought it. Then they go to the applications, okay? So application needs also to go physical, virtual. There is a phase which part of the market calls cloud ready, parts call it cloud enable. We are Israelis, so most calls it cloud ready. Amdocs decided to call it cloud enable just to confuse everyone. We are not the only one calling it cloud enable, but most of the market is cloud ready. Then there is cloud native, and there is something which we call cloud next gen. We're still figuring out what it is. It mostly functions as a service, the likes of Lambda and so on, but other things as well. So you need to go there. Last but not least, if you remember what I said to you about DevOps, there is the people and processes cycle here. So here in physical, the teams were silo teams, both of the telcos and of the vendors. Then you go to more agility and some automation. Then you go to continuous integration, you go to continuous delivery. By the way, most of you know the term CI/CD. CD in telcos is mostly continuous delivery, unlike continuous deployment or continuous development, etc. Full DevOps, and then potentially NoOps, which is science fiction. All the 5 here are actually sort of science fiction for the telcos, okay? Good. Just to show you, since we are very intimate with telcos and we have lots of NDAs in place, etc., I'm a little bit constrained what I can say publicly. But lucky me, Matt Beal, who is the Director of Innovation Architecture of Vodafone. This is the Vodafone logo for the ones that are not telco savvy. Recently issued a presentation, part of light reading, very interesting. You can find it a little bit difficult in Google. It's a light reading thing. If you want the full one, just email me. My long name is very difficult, but my short name is cloud@amdocs.com. And you could see the same phases, okay? The one that I showed you before, physical, virtual, cloud-ready, cloud-native, and we call it next-gen, they call it complete. Okay, let it be. But we are very aligned also with them. That's just to show you that it goes that way. We're getting almost there. Stay with me, eyes up, eyes, everyone, okay? Good. So just to give you a little bit of global view, okay? By 2020, majority of CSPs workloads will be in cloud, okay? This is an Amdocs slide which created after discussing with dozens of telcos worldwide. Slight difference between the regions. So EMEA, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and CALA, Caribbean, Latin America, is that split. So you can see here is not cloud. To the ones who don't know yet, virtualization is not cloud, okay? Virtualization and physical. Then it goes private cloud, a little bit public, a little bit SaaS, and so on. In North America, for various reasons, namely the size, the magnitude of the AT&Ts, Comcast, etc., they are keener to go to private cloud. And in APAC, they are keener to go to public, namely Amazon. That's the main differences here between, okay? And by the way, hybrid cloud, just for you to know, you see here the hybrid cloud could be two private clouds, on-premise, off-premise, okay? And some of the telcos going there. So, as I said to you, we are Cloud Center of Excellence, and here is the hidden reason why we are here. We are the Cloud Center of Excellence in Amdocs. By now, we are dozens of employees, architects, product managers, infra folks, R&D engineers. We define the cloud strategy in the roadmap. We grow knowledge inside the organization, and we support customers, internal and external. And Cloud Center of Excellence actually is a best practice in the industry for big organizations that wants to move to the cloud. You could be Vodafone Cloud Center of Excellence, you can be Amdocs Cloud Center of Excellence. If you're big enough and you have lots of things before cloud, you need to create the critical mass of knowledge, enthusiasm, evangelism, etc. to make it happen. And believe me, it's not easy. We're working with lots of vendors of technology. This is not an exhaustive list. And we are having many telcos as our trusted design customers. That means that we're proactively talking to them and they're talking to us not about the next purchase order, the next deal, the next RFP, about roadmap a year and beyond, because everyone is challenged, and if you're challenged together, it's likelier that you'll have less mistakes, okay? So this is how we do the stuff here. I leave some room for questions after Tal, if you wish. So now, without further ado, the one and the only, Tal Berenbaum.
Okay. So I'm not going to sell you anything, and there will be less graphs than before. It will be a little technical, but it's something we got to do. So quick refresh, what we are doing. Amdocs sells mission-critical software to the telco industry. Mission-critical means if this thing is down, we are nailed, okay? So it cannot be down. So SLA and support is critical, okay? We can't sell anything without SLA and support. And telcos have shifted in recent years. They are building their own internal private clouds. The big ones are using OpenStack. And Amdocs is a software which is a guest in their private cloud. They tell us what to do. They impose on us what to do, okay? Amdocs software must adhere to their policy. We can't move an inch with what they're telling us to do. And it's going to be problematic. Now, you see this phrase at the top? Provocative. But this is it. OpenStack is KVM. How many of you are running VMware in production? When you move to KVM, we have one VMware, right? But you have multiple OpenStacks and KVM releases. CSPs use multiple OpenStack releases, and I mean multiple. Red Hat, Ubuntu, Mirantis, use them all. They're incompatible between each other. There are issues between each other. They have multiple KVM releases. What you tested in your lab, they're not running it. And your app is running in a guest VM on KVM. It's not VMware. This is where it needs to behave and run. And KVM from distro of one Linux is incompatible with the one from a different vendor. And if you remember what I said before, SLA and support is critical. So as an ISV, when we ship software, we need to think about it. Now, guest OS, when we run a VM in KVM, how do you get support when they always change their KVM releases? We have a problem. We believe KVM as it's today is unsustainable support model. Why? Linux vendors really support only their only KVM. Red Hat supports its own. Ubuntu supports its own. A guest VM running on one Linux, taking it to a different host OS, running different KVM, is not supported. And Linux vendors do not certify their guest VM and KVM. It's not like in VMware. SLA, service level agreements. How do you make those with KVM? So on the left, what you see in these graphics, on the left, this is an example of an application running in VMware, in KVM. We have the hardware, we're running Red Hat KVM, and inside we're running a VM running Red Hat Linux. If we take this application and move it to another host running Ubuntu KVM, there is no support. Red Hat will not support us. Ubuntu will not support us. There is a term in this industry, best effort support, which means no support, okay? Nada. You can call, you can open a ticket. Someday it will be resolved. Next. CSPs have their own problems with networking. If they build their own OpenStack clouds, they define for you the OpenStack networking. You can't say anything much. So when you develop your software and you run it and test it, you may not have Open vSwitch at all. The default OpenStack switch that you have is not there. They may choose something else. So what you tested in OVS is not what they have. You may need to realign your testing and even retest your software. If your application, Amdocs is in the business of low latency software. Our billing software is very low latency. If you need low latency from the network, specific capabilities, you might not find it at the Telecom. They have something else. So they're stuck on OVS, but you already moved to another switch. They are not moving. So you need to think about it. So my recommendation for you is always to align your networking requirements with the customer. You must do that. Do not assume they're working like you do. Containers. Who here is using containers? Production? Production. If it's not production, it's irrelevant. Okay, so the hype around containers is unbelievable. And when we're taking this to production, the problems begin. We can agree that containerization is a built-in capability of the Linux kernel. I know that you can run containers on Windows. This is not the issue here. We're talking Linux. It's part of Linux. Containers, we can say that containers are Linux, okay? Containers promise portability. This is one of the coolest things that we like about containers. We can do a CI/CD process. We package our software. We can ship it from Amdocs to AT&T to another vendor as is packaged software. But there are definitions. Container is Linux, but whose Linux? Each Linux vendor says it's their Linux. So if I want to distribute software as an ISV with containers, I have serious problems. Networking in containers may not be as straightforward as you might think, because there are options. So on this graph, Here is a containerized app running on Red Hat 7 host with Docker engine. We created this container, the containerized app. Red Hat 7 base image is inside the container. This is where your OpenSSL, your Bash, all of your libraries that you need are running there. If I take this container and move it to Ubuntu, no support. None. You are stuck with Red Hat. The industry for now has no solution for this one, and vice versa. No one will support you. And this stems from one big reason, that all vendors are saying something very simple for us. They are compiling their libraries that we put in the base image using their own kernel. They do not support different vendors' kernels. The glibc library, which is the critical library for this one, is so important for them that they cannot support it on a different kernel. Next. If I want to distribute software as an ISV with containers, containers is packaged software, I said it before. Everything comes inside the container. We package all of our dependencies, the third parties, the libraries that we need, and our app. Now, distributing it is very cool. We wish we could do that, but we have a very, very high problems here. How many of you are using commercial software inside your containers? That you need a commercial third-party software inside the container. If you're doing that, you need a commercial OEM embedded licensing. You cannot deliver a container with commercial software. Now, if you're using GPL component, part of your code is using GPL components, and you package this GPL component inside your container, in your base image, and you gave it to someone else, Amdocs lawyers will jump on you. So, from us, we can't do that. Think what you package inside your container. Anyone here is using Java? Oracle JDK? That's commercial software. You can't push it in your container. You need to use OpenJDK. Okay? Now, we see something like that in Amdocs, which is very disturbing. Our architects and our IT teams, developers, they are pulling containers from the Docker Hub. Lots of containers. This one comes with Debian. This one comes with Red Hat. This one comes with BusyBox. This is a major impact on Amdocs security. Even if they're running the lab, you need to ask yourself, who is maintaining these containers? It's one has critical exploits. You affect all of your network. So we in Amdocs, for example, we limit this. For now, we're using, for example, Red Hat only images. We build them on their own. We don't take from Docker. Next, containers networking. We all know containers are so cool. There's pluggable SDN fabrics inside, but it's endless options, too much options. So it will be very similar to what we have with KVM. So imagine that you took an OpenShift, a commercial CMP or a CAS. It might come with an SDN fabric that you don't able to use because it may not give you the performance that you need on the network. But when you don't have it, it's your responsibility to pick the right SDN fabric in your deployment. So which one do you choose? There are so many. And the telcos, they already chose it for you. So you need to check with them. The SDN controller may not be the one that the customer is using. Can seriously impact your application. How many are you using Flannel? Flannel has issues with jumper frames, with multicast. Will not work for you. Again, align your networking requirements when you're using containers with the customer. You must check what they have. Summary. And this is something I want to pause. Linux and OpenStack and containers is a business, a major business. I want to say the truth. That's what we are seeing here in the telecoms and from our side. They do all of their can to protect their business. It's a vendor locking from day one, no matter which Linux vendor you pick. Until this issue sorts out, how it can be supported between multiple vendors, you are stuck with one vendor, and you need to test for each and every vendor. That is for sure. If you are virtualizing your KVM application, the networking might impact your performance. Check what kind of networking they are using. The same problem remains with containers. Containers became a super lock-in when you're using a specific base images. We even approached the Linux Foundation. What the hell are they going to do with this one? There are no right answers. If you package containers, please pay attention to what you package, because the legal guys will jump on you. Containers can be a security IT nightmare. Think seriously what you're putting inside your network, at least segregate your network. As I said before, the containers networking components differ between companies. The options are too much. Too much options, too many problems. Verify what you need. Question, thank you very much.
Okay. I think we have 2 minutes for questions, but I promise to give you the hidden agenda while we are here. So if you understood what he said, we would like to recruit you. Okay? If you haven't, you're in a good group, good company, okay? Cloud@amdocs.com, okay? So that's the hidden agenda. We also have a skill scarcity, and we're recruiting like hell, all type of jobs. Questions? Anyone? Okay, so I just would like to say one sentence is that Tal and myself, we are part of the Cloud Center of Excellence, as you know, and there is a huge group in Amdocs which is dealing with NFV, Network Function Virtualization. They are really top-notch OpenStack folks. Not that we are not, or he's not, but you know, they are, you know, on the bleeding edge of things, working with leading telcos on fixing things and moving around and so on. Great folks. Unlike us, they are busy working, so they couldn't come today. But very, very fascinating stuff there. So I hope we convince you that we're doing lots of cool stuff in Amdocs Cloud. And if you want to join solving Telecom's problems, that would be great. I've seen here lots of soldiers and some officers, believe it or not. 2 years ago, they exempted me from Army Reserve. I used to be an officer myself. When you go up to the next level, be civilian, cloud@amdocs.com, okay? Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.